egotokare no mochomu yo senkoro eso yo gachire ariati tokwa nense totako tarinde totagote ense asi totagote ense asi totagote. When our work here is done, and the life crown is won, and our troubles and trials are over, or our sorrow will end, and our voices will blend with the loved ones who've gone on before. Totagote, enze asi totagote, enze asi totagote. When Christ shall come with shout of acclamation, prepared for the good and blessed, waiting his parcels of power to unfold, time's dark night of sorrow will wear away, when our Savior will pronounce the glad word, well done, faithful servant, thy title is clear, to end the joy of the Lord. Totagote, ense asi totagote, ense asi totagote.
Imani yako unapoomba, maana yeye ni Mungu muweza yote, atakujibu. Endelea kujenga imani yako
On demand is great, especially these days. And on
ninayo hamu kurudi nyumbani kwetu ambapo hatutatengana. Hapo nyumbani kwetu hakuna makaburi wala hakuna vyandarua, maana hakuna malaria. Kwetu ni pazuri na kuapia. Najua nawe ndugu yangu unayo hamu kufika huko. Kwetu pazuri nimeshapakumbuka, ninayo hamu kuishi na Mwokozi wangu, kwa amani na furaha tena ya ajabu. Sipati picha kwa watachofika kwetu mbinguni. Kwetu pazuri nimeshapakumbuka, ninayo hamu kuishi na Mwokozi wangu, kwa amani shida, kama hujui nenda hospitali kaone. Lakini kwetu hakuna fani ya tabibu. Watakatifu watachuma majani ya mti wa uzima, wawe na afya, hawataugua magonjwa. Tabu tutaziacha zote hapa duniani.
Kwetu pazuri nimeshapakumbuka, ninayo hamu kuishi na Mwokozi wangu, kwa amani na furaha tena ya ajabu. Sipati picha kwa watakaofika kwetu mbinguni. Kwetu pazuri nimeshapakumbuka, ninayo hamu kuishi na Mwokozi wangu, kwa amani na furaha tena ya ajabu. Sipati picha kwa watakaofika kwetu mbinguni.
Mpendwa, njoo turudi nyumbani. Asubuhi yaja tuyakimbie ya dunia. Atakayekosa hapo kweli ni hasara. Haya matatizo ni mitego ya shetani ili tushindwe kufika nyumbani kwetu pazuri. Lakini kwa jina la Yesu tumemshinda, tunaenda.
Kwetu pazuri nimeshapakumbuka, ninayo hamu kuishi na Mwokozi wangu, kwa amani na furaha tena ya ajabu. Sipati picha kwa watakaofika kwetu mbinguni. Kwetu pazuri nimeshapakumbuka, ninayo hamu kuishi na Mwokozi wangu, kwa amani na furaha tena ya ajabu. Sipati picha kwa watakaofika kwetu mbinguni. Kwetu pazuri nimeshapakumbuka, ninayo hamu kuishi na Mwokozi wangu, kwa amani na furaha tena ya ajabu. Sipati picha kwa watakaofika kwetu mbinguni. Kila siku twasafiri, nyumbani twapaona kwa mbali. Karibuni tutafika makaoni pa Mungu wetu, ila nguvu ndizo chache. Safari imekuwa ngumu kwetu. Mungu tunakuomba tufike salama. Kila siku twasafiri, nyumbani twapaona kwa mbali. Karibuni tutafika makaoni pa Mungu wetu, ila nguvu ndizo chache. Safari imekuwa ngumu kwetu. Mungu tunakuomba tufike salama. Mungu, sisi tu wanyonge, tupe nguvu tushinde vita. Hatuwezi peke yetu, wewe ndiwe ngao yetu. Nyosha mkono wako wa rehema, utupe nguvu za kivita. Tuwe wana wa mfalme, ukatuongoze. Mungu, sisi tu wanyonge, tupe nguvu tushinde vita. Hatuwezi peke yetu, mfalme ukatuongoze. Sio mbali na nyumbani, wasafiri tukazeni mwendo, kwani kitambo kidogo tutapafikia Kanani. Wale walokufa moyo watiwe nguvu, wakasonge mbele. Mungu tuongoze tufike Kanani. Sio mbali na nyumbani, wasafiri tukazeni mwendo, kwani kitambo kidogo tutapafikia Kanani. Wale walokufa moyo watiwe nguvu, wakasonge mbele. Mungu tuongoze tufike Kanani. Mungu sisi tu wanyonge, tupe nguvu tushinde vita. Hatuwezi peke yetu, wewe ndiwe ngao yetu. Nyosha mkono wako wa rehema, utupe nguvu za kivita. Tuwe wana wa mfalme ukatuongoze. Mungu sisi tu wanyonge, tupe nguvu tushinde vita. Hatuwezi peke yetu, wewe ndiwe ngao yetu. Nyosha mkono wako wa rehema, utupe nguvu za kivita. Tuwe wana wa mfalme ukatuongoze. Mungu sisi tu wanyonge, tupe nguvu tushinde vita. Hatuwezi peke yetu, wewe ndiwe ngao yetu. Nyosha mkono wako wa rehema, utupe nguvu za kivita. Tuwe wana wa mfalme ukatuongoze. Mungu sisi tu wanyonge, tupe nguvu tushinde vita. Hatuwezi peke yetu, wewe ndiwe ngao yetu. Nyosha mkono wako wa rehema, utupe nguvu za kivita. Tuwe wana wa mfalme ukatuongoze.
So if you're wondering how we did that deal in Akron, Ohio,
Yesu ametuita kila mmoja ili tujitolee kufanya kazi yake. Mavuno mengi shambani mwa Bwana, wavunaji ndio wachache. Yesu ametuita kila mmoja ili tujitolee kufanya kazi yake. Mavuno mengi shambani mwa Bwana, wavunaji ndio wachache. Nendeni tukavune, pia weka tayari. Nendeni tukavune, pia weka tayari. Ni atakayefanya kazi unapokaa ukilalamika. Ni atakayefanya kazi unapokaa laiti ungejua kwamba muda umeyoyoma, ungepoteza wakati. Laiti ungejua kwamba muda umeyoyoma, ungeacha ulegevu. Twendeni tukavune, tuyaweka tayari. Twendeni tukavune, tuyaweka tayari. Ni nani atakayefanya kazi hii? Unapokaa ukilalamika. Ni nani atakayefanya kazi hii? Unapokaa ukinung'unika. Laiti ungejua kwamba muda umeyoyoma, ungepoteza wakati. Laiti ungejua kwamba muda umeyoyoma, ungeacha ulegevu. Tusinyamaze, kwani kazi ni nyingi shambani mwa Bwana wetu. Tukiwarejesha waasi mwangani, taji la tungojea pale. Tusinyamaze, kwani kazi ni nyingi shambani mwa Bwana wetu. Tukiwarejesha waasi mwangani, taji la tungojea pale. Twendeni tukavune, tuyaweka tayari. Twendeni tukavune, tuyaweka tayari. Ni nani atakayefanya kazi hii? Unapokaa ukilalamika. Ni nani atakayefanya kazi hii? Unapokaa ukinung'unika. Laiti ungejua kwamba muda umeyoyoma, ungepoteza wakati. Laiti ungejua kwamba muda umeyoyoma, ungeacha ulegevu. Twendeni tukavune, tuyaweka tayari. Twendeni tukavune, tuyaweka tayari. Ni nani atakayefanya kazi hii? Unapokaa ukilalamika. Ni nani atakayefanya kazi hii? Unapokaa ukinung'unika. Laiti ungejua kwamba muda umeyoyoma, ungepoteza wakati. Laiti ungejua kwamba muda umeyoyoma, ungeacha ulegevu. Twendeni tukavune, tuyaweka tayari. Twendeni tukavune, tuyaweka tayari. Ni nani atakayefanya kazi hii? Unapokaa
to a bountiful Father above, we will offer a tribute of praise for the glorious gift of His Lamb and the blessings that hallowed day in the sweet, by and by. We shall meet on the beautiful shore in the sweet by and by. We shall meet on the beautiful shore in the sweet by and by. We shall meet on the beautiful shore in the sweet by and by. We shall meet on the beautiful shore.
Thank you very much, our sister. And at this time, can you sing one song as we welcome Pastor Isaboke to pray? One song from you.
Can we sing Swahili 119?
All right.
Swahili, front and Swahili 119.
All right, sister, sing it, then the others will mute.
Yesu anasema wewe una nguvu, kesha ukaombe na uje mwanangu. Alilipopenda wiwa dhambi ilitiwa, aliondoa. Bwana, nimeona uwezo wako tu, waweza takasa mioyo michafu. Alilipopenda wiwa naye, dhambi ilitiwa, aliondoa. Sina kitu chema kudai neema, hivi nitafua mavazi kwa damu. Alilipopenda wiwa naye, dhambi ilitiwa, aliondoa. Ninaposimama juu ya mawingu, taji nitaweka miguuni pa Yesu. Alilipopenda wiwa naye, dhambi ilitiwa, aliondoa.
Thank you very much, our sister, for the beautiful song. Can we have Pastor Isaboke to pray for us, please?
Innocent. Elder Innocent.
Yes, Pastor.
I send you a message. I send you a message. Oh, Pastor, go ahead. Go ahead and do the opening prayer.
What?
Okay, we'll pray. Our Heavenly Father, we humbly come to Thee this evening. You know what has brought us here together. We have come because your servant, Elder, has slept. We bring the family unto your hands. We don't have a language. We don't have a message to comfort them. But we ask you, Father, to comfort them at this particular time. When they are in a valley, when they don't know what's going on, when they are mourning and grieving, we put them unto your hands, Father. We ask you to give them hope. We remember all the families who are grieving at this time, we put them into your hands. We know that we live at the end of times. The things which are happening, they show us that this world is not our home. Soon, you are coming to take us to our heavenly kingdom. And now, Father, the servant you have put across today to comfort us, we put her onto your hands. We ask you, Father, to speak to her as she speaks to us. Even amidst this grief, let us see your name. And therefore, we put your servant, Pastor Tabitha, onto your hands. We ask you, Father, through her, we glorify your name, for we pray in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Pastor.
Thank you so much, Pastor Isaboke Innocent. Thank you for your leadership. I want to take this opportunity and introduce our speaker tonight. Our speaker is I know you had called Pastor Isaboke to pray, and he had indicated to me that he will not be here today, but by luck, things changed and he came. I thank you, Pastor, for praying. And we are blessed by your words in prayer. Our speaker tonight is Pastor Tabitha Isaboke. Pastor Tabitha is the Women Ministries Coordinator of the Minnesota Conference, newly appointed, I think a week or two old. And we are delighted, Pastor, for those new responsibilities in your shoulders. Congratulations. And may the God use you as you serve women and all of us in this territory. And we pray that God may richly bless you for those responsibilities. Pastor Tabitha is the wife of Pastor Isaboke. Pastor, if you can come up and maybe say hi to us, and if you can also utilize that moment to pass a word of condolences, I won't mind before Pastor comes up.
Thank you, Pastor Leakey, for giving me this opportunity. Dr. Nyambane is our actually family friend, and it's kind of really, is it true that Nyambane has slept? So we are so sad. But as many of you have said, I've been listening to many speeches. So we only say that God's will has been done. And we don't have any otherwise except to accept the will of God. So to Sister Alice and all your children and the grandchildren, I know most of them, we want to let you know that still God is in control. God is in control. He's the one who created our elder, and he is the one who has accepted that he sleeps at this particular time. So we leave God unto your, we leave you unto the hands of God, so that God will comfort you and have hope in him. So thank you so much, Pastor Leakey. I don't have much to say.
Yeah, thank you so much, Pastor. After the sermon, the family is requesting if you can do our baby. They will greatly appreciate if you can do Ebunda Baby.
Okay.
They want to hear that song. Pastor Tabitha, karibu sana.
Thank you so much, Pastor Leakey, for your kind words of introduction. And thank you for inviting me to speak and mourn a great man who has gone to sleep. I've known Dr. Nyambane for quite some time, not many years and not so few years. I came to know Dr. During the campaigns when I was back in Kenya. And I remember they used to come with Joshua, but then I knew Dr. through Joshua. And so as I pass my condolences to the family, I want to also pass condolences and Paul to Joshua for losing a great friend, because they were always together. I know they have done so much together. So they were there. I happened to be at Bovasi where I was working. That's how I came in contact and I came to know Dr. Nyambane. Then later on, we met Dr. I met Dr. when he came for a fund drive in the local church, in his home church, local church. I happened to be there. A humble man, a man of the people, a man who sacrificed, a man who had that passion that people be saved. He came to a local church, his own home church. I saw how people had respect to him. He gave money and good money there. It's not so many people who can remember that they come in person. Others, when they are invited, we take our time to send money home. But he was there in person to conduct a fund drive, simply for a church to be put up so that the people can get salvation, so that the people can get that invitation and get salvation to attending the church. He was a great man. We later met when he came to Kisii. They came with a group, Joshua and Dr. Kirandi, Rachel Serio, and the other members who were there for a training. We met. From that time, he became a friend and a good friend. After I've come to the US, he continued to be a friend. We could communicate. One thing I learned about him, he was very faithful. And once he's a friend, he has known you, there is no way that friendship will just cease. He could not assume. Most of the times when I'm invited to speak in his church, he was there and he could come and say, "Thank you, Pastor, for coming." If it happened that I did not get, maybe I was not free to go there, he could call and ask Pastor, "Why? We invited you to come and preach. What happened?" And I tell him, "Doctor, no, I didn't have that chance because there was no time. I was engaged somewhere else." And then he could say, "Okay, Pastor, because of that reason, okay. But next time when you are invited, please make sure you come." I remember when we were at his home church, the one I said, after the fundraiser, we went together with this man and the late mom to his home. What I saw, the whole village was there. What a man he was even in the society. What a man he was even in the village. The whole village was there, welcoming him well. We ate there. And I remember when the mom passed away, he was here, he called me. He told me, "Pastor, you remember that mom who cooked and we ate well and we laughed and did everything? She has slept." "Doctor, your mom?" "Yes, my mom has died. What you can do, Pastor, come preside over. Come, the memorial service is this day, please come and preach." I honored it. And then I went, I preached here, although I didn't get a chance to go and bury, see of the mom, but then I went there and I preached. This was a friend. I'm mourning a friend, and a great friend, a loyal friend, a man who was open, a man who gave everything, a man who knew where peace comes from. He had that passion. Even in the church, he could speak and people could listen to him. He could coordinate well. So in that regard, I pass my condolences to the family. I say, Paul, for losing this man. To the church in the total TME church, the same. I know you have lost a great man. I know you have lost an elder. I know you have lost a counselor, but God will comfort you. God will fill this gap. So what am I here to say to the family and to all of us who are listening and to all who are watching? I'm here to tell you one thing. I'm here this night to tell you to lift up your eyes. And after I tell you to lift up your eyes, I'll pray and then leave you in peace. Let us pray. Our Father, our God in heaven, we are before you this time again. I'm ready to speak to your people. May you send the Holy Spirit. As we open the scriptures, let the Holy Spirit guide and direct. And at the end of it all, let us see you, Jesus, at the cross, because you are the source of salvation. You are the source of life. You are the source of everything. Be with us to the end, for we pray in Jesus' name. Amen. I want to read a common passage. I want to read a passage which has been quoted, which has been spoken about. That is what I want to read tonight. And then when I finish reading, as I said, I'll pray. Mama Alice, with your children. Yes, the tide has gone ahead of us, but there is hope. Beyond this life, there is a new life that is coming. Beyond this life, there is a life that is coming. And that life is what we are hoping for. I want to read the words of the psalmist, Psalm chapter number 121. Psalm 121, the psalmist says, and it reads, I will lift up my eyes to the hills. From where comes my help? David is asking a question. I will lift my eyes unto the hills. Where does my help come from? And then it goes ahead to answer the question. My help comes from the Lord, who made heaven and earth. He will not allow your foot to be moved. He who keeps you will not slumber. Behold, he who keeps Israel shall neither slumber nor sleep. The Lord is your helper. The Lord is your keeper. The Lord is your shade at your right hand. The sun shall not strike you by day, nor the moon by night. The Lord shall preserve you from all evil. He shall preserve your soul. The Lord shall preserve your going out and your coming in from this time forth and even forevermore. Amen. David asks, I raise up my eyes. I lift up my eyes unto the hills. Why is David saying, asking that he lifting his eyes unto the hills? This psalm, it is a song, by the way. This song was sung by pilgrims, by Jews on their way to Jerusalem. It was their custom that every year they could go to Jerusalem. For what? They were going there to worship. So on the way, on their road to Jerusalem, Jerusalem was surrounded by hills. Jerusalem was surrounded by mountains. And the way was not smooth. The roads were not smooth. On their way, there were those who were against the law. Who were against the law, they were evildoers. So they could be on the way and anything could happen to the Jews. And that is why on their way they were singing. They were chanting and singing. So this is where David gets these words. And then he said, I lift up my eyes unto the hills. Where does my help come from? My help comes from the Lord, who made the heaven and the earth. There are three things. There are three things in this song that David is singing. In the song that David is singing here, there are three things, and that is what I want to communicate to you, to the family and to all of us. To the family and to all of us, three things. Number one, it talks about God. He's lifting up his eyes to the hills. It is beyond the hills. It is because he has used the hills because the hills are up, which means he's communicating that he's raising his eyes up to the Creator. Number one, he acknowledges God, that he is the God of creation. He is the God of creation. That is why he says, my help comes from the Lord, who made heaven and the earth. God is the creator of all. God is the creator. He has created. He created. In Genesis 1 verse 1, it says, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. He is all powerful. This is the God that the psalmist, that David says is raising his eyes unto the hills to see, where does my help come from? He acknowledges that his only hope and help comes from the Lord who is the creator of heaven and earth, who is the creator of everything, who is the beginner, who is the sustainer of everything. He created, all powerful, all power, all glory belong to him. We are the work of God's creation. He had the power to create. He has the power to recreate. He had the power to create. He created, including the child Nyambane, who was departed from us. He has the power to recreate, because the Bible tells us he will come to resurrect those who have fallen, who have died, those who are in the graves. There is a day that God is coming to resurrect them. Number one, I said, the God who is the creator. This is the God in whom David says is lifting his eyes to the hills. Beyond the hills, his help comes from the Creator. My help comes from the Creator. Number two, the psalmist acknowledges God as the preserver, the God of preservation, the God of preservation. He will not suffer thy foot to be moved. He who keeps you will not slumber. He has a personal interest in you. He has a personal interest in me. He knows everybody. He is the preserver of us all. No evil can befall us. Nothing difficult can come ahead before us. Even what we are seeing going on in the world today, even when we are seeing people dying, this preserver of us all, when it is the right time, he gives chance that let the servant rest. Rest in the grave, awaiting for that resurrection morning. He is the preserver. He will not allow your foot to be moved. He who keeps you will not slumber. Behold, he keeps Israel. He who keeps Israel shall neither slumber nor sleep. When I was trying to look, what does it mean? The keeper. He who keeps Israel. Keeper, I came to find that to keep means to protect, which means God is a protector. Keep means to hedge about, hedge around, put an hedge around. This is the God that David is talking about. He is lifting his eyes unto the hills, to this God where his help, his only help comes from. He is the God. Keep means to guard. To keep means to attend to. This is the God that David is talking about. This is the God that David is singing about. He will not slumber. if he does not slumber? What do I care when I'm stressed? Even at night, I'm stressed, I can't sleep. No, I have to go and sleep. I sleep, completely sleep, simply because I know that God doesn't slumber. He does not sleep. There's no way you can go out of sleep, and God who is the creator, God who is the preserver, is not sleeping. How? He does not sleep. He does not slumber. He enters into our experience and helps us through trouble. When we are troubled, when we are weak, when we are stressed, when we don't know what is happening in our lives, when we don't know what is coming ahead of us, when we don't know what is coming from behind us, God has said, the psalmist says, he will lift up his eyes. Lift up your eyes, brothers and sisters. Lift up your eyes to the hills. Lift up your eyes beyond the hills. He got each one of us. He is interested. This is the God who did not leave his servant, Daniel. Daniel, when he was thrown in the den of lions, the lions didn't cause any harm to Daniel. God was there. But one thing, God doesn't move us away from the evil. He leaves us in the midst of this evil and then finds a way. That is why he did not hold Daniel not to be thrown into the den of lions. He left him to be thrown there, and then from there, for his glory, God preserved him. This is the God who preserved the lives of the 3 Hebrew boys when they were thrown in the fiery furnace. He did not restrain them not to be thrown in there. He left them to be thrown in there, but preserved them. This is the God whom we are encouraged this evening, whom David is saying that I lift up my eyes unto the hills. Where does my help come from? My help comes from heaven. My help comes from God, the keeper of Israel, the keeper of his people. This world does not promise that it is going to be peace for all of us. This world does not have peace because it's a world full of evil. That is why what we are seeing, everything that is going on in the world, it doesn't promise that even the bereaved family is going to have peace. Even after the burial of our friend, there is not going to be peace. This is a time when life will be changed now. This is a time when Mama Alice, people will be looking at you. Someone will be looking at you, even if it is the dress that you have been putting on. Someone will say, nowadays, you know, that lady is changing clothes. It seems that she has peace, total peace ever since the husband departed. That is the evil world in which we are. Mama Alice, when all that is said, when all that is heard unto your ears, lift up your eyes to the hills. That is where the source of help comes from. God has promised to be with you. A time will come in this life, in this sinful world, when the mama people will look at you, someone from a side will look at you, and then say, you know, that mama these days is very happy. It's as if she is. Did you see she's changed now? She's growing. It's as if she has total peace, and she's very okay. Yes, you have to have peace because the source of peace is the one who has promised to lift your eyes unto him. And when you lift your eyes unto him, no harm will come to you. Even the children of the Tari is when people will look at you and say, maybe someone says that you see, Cyprian nowadays is driving a different car. What happened? Ever since the dad departed, he is a changed man. He is totally different. Why? What happened? Show them, prove to them that the source of peace, the source of confidence is above. The source of confidence is above the hills. That is where you will get your help from. That is where you will get your. This life has pills and bitter pills to give us. It will feed us bitter pills. We don't have peace even in our families. We are not courageous even in our families. Even that one, you are living with a neighbor, even a family member. But when all that evil comes, when you see all that happening, lift up your eyes. Lift up your eyes unto Jesus. Lift up your eyes unto the hills. Number 3, the psalmist is pointing us to the God of salvation. The God of salvation is where David is pointing us to. Lift up your eyes unto God, who is the God of salvation. He shall preserve thy going out and thy coming in. And his salvation is not a temporal salvation. His salvation is not a 2-year salvation. His salvation is a forevermore salvation. Forevermore. That is how the chapter finishes. The Lord shall preserve your going out and coming in from this time forth and even forevermore. Hallelujah. This is the God that we serve. This is the God this evening I want to introduce you to, the only source where you have to lift your eyes unto. And when you lift your eyes unto him, he has said he will lift up you. He will lift you up. Forevermore. Not 2 days, not during morning, not during happy times, not during sad moments, forevermore, forever and ever. He is the God of salvation. He delivers, he saves, he redeems. His salvation is eternal. His salvation is eternal. That is why John 3:16 says, for God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whoever believes in him shall not perish but have eternal life. Eternal life has been promised. When this life passes, eternal life has been promised. Eternal life has been promised. Through the Son, a lamb without blemish that was hung on the cross, a lamb without blemish. He was without sin, but he was made sin because of you and because of me. This is the secret that David found. This is the secret that David found and said, I will raise my hands, I will lift my eyes unto the hills. From where does my help come? This is the God that the psalmist is singing about. Where is our help? Our only help comes from up. When Jesus has died, when Jesus has been put in the tomb, when Jesus has resurrected, he has walked among the people. He prepared the disciples. When he was about to go to heaven, he prepared them and he told them, stay here in Jerusalem. A helper will come. Stay here in Jerusalem. And then when he was about to ascend into heaven, the men of Galilee were there. Suddenly, Jesus ascends into heaven. The men of Galilee stood staring up into the skies, seeing up, ascend into the sky. As they were staring, as they were looking up, surprised and scared because he has gone, they are confused, they don't know what's happening. 2 men appear. 2 men appear. And I want to read the book of Acts. 2 men appear and clothed in white. What did they communicate? They said this: Jesus has ascended. Acts chapter 1. Chapter 1, verse 9. I want to begin from verse 9. I read up to verse 11. It says, now when he had spoken these things while they were watching, he was taken up, and a cloud received him out of their sight. And while they looked steadfastly towards heaven, as he went up, behold, 2 men stood. 2 men stood before them in white apparel, and then said, men of Galilee, why do you stand gazing up into heaven? This same Jesus who was taken up from you into heaven will come so in like manner as you saw him go into heaven, he will come back in like manner. Hallelujah. This God, whom we are told to raise our eyes unto him, to look up, the source of help, the source of salvation. When he ascends into heaven, a promise has been given. When men are staring and they are confused, when they are confused, what's happening? They were told, the angels told them, this same Jesus whom you have seen go into heaven, he is coming back in the same way that you've seen him go. When we are staring at what is happening in the world, COVID-19 is taking our people, deaths everywhere. You get out, you are not assured of your safety. You get out, you are at risk at any time because of the violence that is going on. This same Jesus, I want to remind you, he will come back in the same way that he has gone. That is the promise, and that is the only word. Lift up your eyes. Lift up your eyes, because this same Jesus was gone. He has said he's coming back. This same Jesus was gone. He has said he's coming back soon. How soon? We don't know whether it's tomorrow. How soon? We don't know whether it's next week. How soon? We don't know whether it will be next year. How soon? We don't know whether it is the next minute. All I know is that he is coming back. Why is he coming back? He is coming back to take us away from this evil world, to take us away from this evil world, to take us away from where we are experiencing the death, the departing of our beloved ones. He is coming. He is coming. And my prayer is when he comes, he gets me prepared, so that when the roll is called up yonder, I will be found among them. I will be found among them. When the trumpet of the Lord shall sound, and there shall be no more. Morning breaks eternal, bright and fair. When the saved of the church and the roll is called up yonder, I'll be there. When the roll is called up yonder, 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 I'll be there. Let us labor for the Master from the dawn till setting sun. Let us talk of all his wondrous love and care. Then when all of life is over and our work on earth is done, and the roll is called up yonder, I'll be there. When the roll is called up yonder, 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 I'll be there. The Nyambane family, take courage in these words. The Nyambane friends, take courage in these words. He has promised he is coming back. He is coming back. He'll take us away from this world. We are tired. I am tired of violence. I am tired of death every day. I am tired of evil every day. I pray that you be among them on that morning. May God bless you. Pastor is coming with the song that was requested.
You need this?
Okay, yeah, thank you so much. So as I said, this song is one of the songs which comes into my mind. And actually, when I used to sing this song, Elder used to ask me to sing it again and again. It's in Ekeusi. Vavo minto na wate ebunda eyo tuanchete korangeria baby korendero ekero yakwete onde tayo ochete amatanga Vomito na guate ebunda yo tuanchete korange ya baby korendero ekero ya guete onde tayo ochete amatanga ekero barenge koye tindeka Tiba kore tino yana masabo inga saba na injenya sankonye tinja gotinde kwa hune hunda ekero barenge koye tindeka tiba kore tino yana masabo inga saba na injenya sankonye tinja gotinde kwa hune hunda Avineri akarore kana Wona omontore ne chisemi Orendere ekera kwete Aqua uno monto morire
No way.
Dama uno konyara choka enka yao Tema kori yo morembe chinga kyore moyo Kera nyare kane ama kweri akonyore Tocha goti de kwa bune bunda Avineri akarare kana Guna omontore ne jisemi Korendere kera kwete Ora kwa uno monto morire Pema ye uno konyara choka enka yao Pema kodi yo morembe chinga kyore moyo Kera nyare kane ama kweli akonyore
I think I know this guy.
Ekero barenge koye tindeka Tiba kore tino nyana masabo Inga saba na injenya sankonye Tincha goti de kwa gune bunda Ekero barenge koye tindeka Tiba kore tino nyana masabo Inga saba na injenya sankonye Tincha goti de kwa gune bunda O monto konago kurerwa Moire tari koiwa Moyo amade na monyore Akwe ache goti de kwa buna baby O monto konago kurerwa Moire tari koiwa Moyo amade na monyore Akwe ache goti de kwa buna baby Ekero barenge koye tindeka Tiba kore tina nyana masabo Inga saba na injenya sankonye Tincha goti de kwa bune bunda Ekero barenge koye tindeka Tiba kore tino nyana masabo Inga saba na injenya sankonye Tincha goti de kwa buna baby
Thank you so much. I have my dad here who wants to sing, Pastor.
Yes, go ahead.
Oh, okay, Dad. Welcome.
Okay. Let me sing one song. Koroyane nigere nobororo. Yami irwe ne mechando yenseye. Metayane nigere no kirwe. Mone none kulira sore. Monene konyango sirande. Sitani nigo akondigia bochuko no mowaso. One none kustaba kwane. Monene konyango sirande. Saitani nigo akondigia bochuko no mowaso. Mone none kustaba kwane. Waminto tongi watoncho keire. Nengenge tongiru nechi yoro. Enda mwamu ye nyancha ye koruma. Kairira magi mamanya wanto. Waminto tongi watoncho keire. Netenge che merero nechi yoro. Enda mwamu ye nyancha ye koruma. Ya irire magi mamanya wanto. Wamine konyango sirande. Enetani nigo akondigio bochuko no mogaso. One none yogo sawa kwane. Wamine konyango sirande. Saitani nigo akondigio bochuko no mogaso. One none yogo sawa kwane. Amarwile atari koweneka. China nero. Chika cheito chare tiro bororo. Obantani sentinile masense. Wamile atari koweneka. China vitina nevisegi. Chinka cheito chare tiro bororo. And then sentinile masense. Omonene konyango sirande. Sitani nigo akondigio bochuko no mogaso. Omonene yigo sawa kwane. Omonene konyango sirande. Saitani nigo akondigio bochuko no mogaso. Omonene yigo sawa kwane.
Pastor Tabitha, you can close by a word of prayer. I do not see Pastor Enoch. Or Pastor Enoch, are you there? Pastor, go ahead.
Oh, okay. Also, the family, cheer up. By the way, I didn't say I came to realize that Damaris Ondiva was my schoolmate, and for 4 years we were together in high school. Damaris, take heart. Cheer up, Mercy, my friend. Cheer up with your siblings. Mama Alice, my friend. Cheer up. Our source of help is Jesus Christ. Let us pray. Our Father and our God in heaven, we humble ourselves before thy presence this evening. We are full of thanks for the care, for the protection you've given us. Thank you because of your word this evening. You have reminded us that you are the source of help, that if we raise our eyes up, you are the source of help. You are our salvation. You have assured us there is nothing to fear, even if this mortal body perishes, goes away, we are assured of a new life in you. That is the hope that we have. Therefore, this evening, Father, we commit this family unto your hands. We commit Mama Alice unto your hands. She may see darkness at this time. She may not be hearing anything at this time, but we commit her unto your hands in a very special way. You have said that you will be a husband to the widows. May you take hold of her. May you be with her. When everything is darkness to her, Father, may you be a light to her. Take charge of everything. Even when the program is going on, whatever will be planned, let it be to the honor and the glory of your name. We bring the kids of our brother who was departed unto your hands. We pray that you may be with them. May you hold their hand, help comes from. Be with them, Father. Be with the grandchildren. Be with the larger family back at home at this time, Father. When they are confused, they don't know what to do. Father, remind them that you are there for them. Be with us all. The God has touched many in this life, and the testimonies have been given of how good the man was. We pray that you will help us. You will help us to stand firm in faith, so that in that resurrection morning, when the trumpet shall sound, each one of us will be found faithful to go to that heavenly home that you've prepared for each one of us. Until then, Father, we pray that you may bind us with the cords of love. Be with us now and forevermore, for we pray and believe in Jesus' name. Amen.
Thank you so much. Over to Elder Innocent.
Thank you very much, Pastor Isaboke, Mrs. Pastor Isaboke, and our Pastor Liki. Thank you very much for the coordination. Right now, we are going to call for one song from our sister Flora. Then I will be looking for a committee member to be ready to take over the program from me. Thank you very much for everyone who participated.
Be not dismayed, be not dismayed, whatever betide. Be not dismayed, whatever betide. God will take care of you. Beneath his wings of love abide. God will take care of you. God will take care of you through every day, all the way. He will take care of you. God will take care of you. Through days of toil, when your heart don't fail, God will take care of you. When dangers fears your path to sail, God will take care of you. God will take care of you through every day, all the way. He will take care of you. God will take care of you. All you may need, he will provide. God will take care of you. Nothing you ask will be denied. God will take care of you. God will take care of you through every day, all the way. He will take care of you. God will take care of you. No matter what may be the test, God will take care of you. In where you are, upon his breast, take care of you. God will take care of you through every day, all the way. He will take care of you. God will take care of you.
Thank you very much, our sister. Now we are going to progress to another program, and I'm calling for the committee member led by our brother David Osiemo or Japhet Kimaiga or any committee member who is available within us to take control.
Thank you. Thank you again. Okay. Our committee wants to appreciate all that has been done. More specifically, I want to thank Pastor Leakey, whose ministry has been always there to make sure that the spiritual part is taken care of. And he has always been there every day in making sure that, we are very much tuned to the program. And in our planning committee, we do have Brother Simon Nyambane, our lead, Brother Joshua Nzerio, Sumiangito, and Henry Momanya, as well as myself. And our design today was that we could have Henry Mogire to come forward and be able to give us the way forward where we are, and of course what we are being expected to be able to do as far as other programs concerned, and as well coordinating the program for tonight. And therefore, unless plans change, because I did understand that a while ago they shared with our brother Shem Yangito them. So may I, without due taking more time, to see if Brother Henry Mogire, you are there, if you can kindly join in and give us the way forward.
Thank you, Brother Japhet. Henry Mogire called me and said he's caught up somewhere. I will fill up for him this evening. I once again take this chance to thank Pastor Tabitha Isaboke, and them say Isaboke, wonderful word of God to comfort the family and the both of us. It's been a long 2 weeks that we have met here every evening, consoling family, praying for them. We have had songs that have sweet us. I've seen them grow and get better each day. But each and every one of you who has joined in prayers, consoling them, it is a great honor for this family. They will have no words that they would ever express enough to you all. But through God's mercies, they say blessings to you all. As we continue this evening, our last evening before tomorrow's another fundraiser, and praising and comforting them, we will continue opening up for those who have not had a chance to console or pass a word of comfort to the family. Anywhere where you are, United States, Kenya, you're very welcome tonight. It's a chance that you will have to physically say a word to this family. I will open it up, and if you are ready to say something, unmute yourself and start speaking. First come, first served. But unless I see a hand up, then I will select you. It's opening now to everybody, and at some time I will bring our family to at least say something after about 2 or 3 speakers, and then we'll continue. Everybody, you are welcome. Anybody available like to say something?
I have a song. Can I come in?
Aribu, yes.
Thank you. This is mother, sister-in-law to Mama Alice. I'm going to present one song. Tumanyetiere kago chamambiana movasogati andina chiche mogorova goseno gotukogati otevire turinde mono Tito chirimia chitaya Erio ere ekeragocha Atonyore toganyete Toko ganyeta ye Toko ganyeta ye Toganyete aye Nigo toko ganyeta ye Nainyoire amabera aye agerete agankwera agati gobonene bwaye gokwera abasirete Kero kenina chekogoka adore abakwerete vago kere togo jakwaye soko ganyana korenda toko ganyeta ye toko ganyete Toganyete torende nigoto koganyeta ye Yesu mwanjo moboria one kwa manyire ningwancheti nasemerie nikororaye Erionganye asorem Korache konacha ekina Asibaria baratame Ningo kwanye eriomosani Koganyete na korenda Toko ganyeta ye Toganyete torendete Toko ganyeta ye Nigo toko ganyeta ye Thank you so much.
Amen. Thank you, my sister, for those words of comfort that you have given it to the family. God bless you. I will call upon this Robert Nyambane, his brother from Kenya. Are you online? Robert?
Yeah.
Karibu.
Okay, asante. Na inumongi wete?
Ntuku wete.
Okay. Aya, litangani Maria tani ko Robert Nyambane muna mwa igure. Injendu ya yo moke marehemu Thomas Nyambane. Asaba ono igango kwana kurusi Kenya. Naona kabera abra kini mono Kenya ndi. Go tikante benga good morning ya saba libale pinsa mochi ya Europe nya baro ndo kar kororo. Kurwa Kenya. Middle East baka South East Asia moino good morning. Good evening, ase bali bale Canada, US na South America. Karoro bono maragoba ere Saturday maragoba. Tuwa ere Sunday mambia. Ange chinsa 11 chia mambia. Bono kurtua kanya te report ye ende yendu yane ange chiwiki bere chiaire. Kartua nyata batu abetano kumisana. Tukatwara mayanda mange. My brother Savania, my sister Karen Bachete, abaigo bonsi Bacheta igaka bachikoro bonsi na barenge. Abamate bagacha asobonge otolemia. Family friends abairi bonsi Bachete gotolemia. Abande baturangeti simi abande batuma message. Chikani sabuna nyagiki SDA Church Nyansongo SDA Church Chiwala SDA Church members baba Bachete. Na Lilian Korwa Lilian Yachuaya Moses Nyarombe na representative abana ba Pathfinder abo bamwanjete sana Uruchiwala SDA Church. Abali bali balitayire nabo banda abo balegeti bono bali balitayire bakole gasinera bukale nabo balegeti bono kurwa Kisi na Nyamira County Mbachete. Abamate stiri nabo bali na intwe batoigetange kabisa. Abairi n'abasani nkona gocha bale nkaiga gotolemia bake abandi kona gotorangeri bale abandi kona gotoma bale chimesi chia condolence. Gabuna nkaransteiga yomba ebichage enanyire ko babune memorial service yae. So ebichage tenere naro cha sigeteiga. Sorry. Abuga kina tumatia ngirane park. Kuna nabate birende njero pet Nyambane prata yayo moke. Nango kona kurwa gusi Kenya. No nyande endu yayo moke. Lakini naende wana arenge buno mwana oyo monene. Ege kogera. He took care of me in every way since childhood. Naende nabana alikola kana buno mwana oye. Ya ngire tenga chikomenya nere asare ko kolegasi kera nyote gasi ya entang kabisa ga Kenya. Ngakire ndiko nyatara twale family yae. So nabana alikola kana buno mwana oye. Naende kana kueligeria nkoranga nincha konyete mono kubwana na abana bande baminto. Right from primary school I will provide kera every necessary needs. Tocha high school wale wakane fees. Baadaye akataka sponsor nkagenda India for further studies. Na akarona iranete naenda akataka sponsor nkagenda Egerton University for postgraduate diploma in education. Naenda kana nyote chance yoko kugenda USA akangasisti go fly over after doing all the necessary needs. Again, I can get to USA. He took care of me. Pakankacha koba stable. So nakia ko rango teba nga nabonga buno mwana oyo monene. Lakini bono the most sad thing nkelinga he fall sick and passed away when I was very far away from him. Also from the place where he was. Again, to kenale ukwana lirikale igore ya ebichanere naroche iga ya kere tutte ngolenga Texas nao bari gosoma komo naenda kora gosego ya akara bari ko graduate ko Ruasa University ya North Texas. Oyo mo bara seriche yo injection yobiri Henry Bosire nendu ya emuracha Thomas Yongesa David Omayo
mwanga skango igoro igabantu bakorore ya just azinini Yeah, I think skoi gora kana inde. Yeah, bado kuna kwenda na ujinsi. Skango mayake.
Oh.
I think that right there. Right there.
Na keva nyanchi. Amanero manyene. Bunanate aba okora go se ne karoba inga kiba graduated. Urua se university ya North Texas in Texas. Na Minnesota. Kaya sani ba bande bara orobna Joshua Ngoro. Evanisio Metes Ron Moronge. Dr. Henry Grandi, Johnny Akanga, James Yomweno, Jason Yomale, Pitu Sigetugi, Energy in Texas, Peter Miancho Arizona, Mary Ayora Baso Metenere. Na banda bangen tanyare kwa turaiga. Esa uriende jinsa. Baba chave kimaiga na obale. Shem nyangi tu na bange bale basa.
Wacha wa freeze temango.
You can say amount of blessings. Abu asa lego shake. And I didn't give a first church elder. Avoid go. The ante por as members van which can sa chinde chile within the twin cities. Kuna bono KCC Kenya Community Church, United Church, Faith Church, can sa Jones Picha PH Minnesota, Catholic Church Jones Picha Minnesota. This can sa Jones Picha Chumapiri, Josas Itulia Chumapiri, Abu Minnesota. Pole sana mwenzi B members which can say jo. Ninde shuanga na what the friends as is kire kan as can say Jones. Emero belionzi eche bangwe boikera nuna kwaera buya uneta keire nseyo borai bwae obuya amaneno ito Nyasaye. God bless you all. Thank you. Tumuran disconnect again tonkera nataka ko teba tumaye tiko sekra ola kana obera kini una ngo kwana. Omo murana arabo Minnesota kurunga Keva Arufano Ntere obwate chibesta chia ya $4,000. Bali bara se komikirende bacha ba musamoni make sure olete chibesta ekyo achianda over kuchia se family gabo $4,000. Keva Arufano Ntere. So tingo na kwa rasiba singa kia lengira kini is a factinga omomro yo na abwate chibesta chia $4,000 and make sure nga ochiretre ochianda over kuchia se family.
Uncle, we will take care of that. Thank you.
I am Biamano. Awaniria Maya. Asante.
Biamano. Robert. Thank you, Robert. Thank you. Freddie, thank you for coming up. For that wonderful story of Dr. Nyambane. It's great memories. Families have great memories of our dear departed brother, Dr. Nyambane. We continue praying and we're working hard to make sure that our plans are met as family wish. On that note, I still am asking that if you have not been able to donate something, give you anything, we are still a little bit short of the funds, our target. Keep passing word. Pass still word throughout the night or the day tomorrow. I know God is there that we will meet the goal by the end of the day tomorrow. I will continue. Anybody else who is ready to give a tribute to our brother, Dr. Nyambane, before I bring a family. Anytime family you are ready, if you have somebody who wants to speak, let me know. Anybody else, you can unmute yourself and you'll be given a chance to speak. Anybody? I'm not seeing a hand up. I'm not hearing a voice. Hey, Kevin Yadibunanda, I see a hand up there. Can you unmute yourself? Kevin, there. Yes. Unmute yourself. You're still muted. Host, can you unmute Kevin?
I'm working on it.
All right.
Kevin.
He's right there on top, Kevin. Yeah. And try to unmute yourself. Yes.
Kevin Makori.
I think Kevin, the name is under Kevin.
Kevin Makori or Kevin Nyambane?
Nyambane. Karibu.
I want to sing a song.
Okay. You can sing a song while Kevin is, we are trying to get Kevin on. Oh, Kevin is on.
Kevin is on.
Yes.
Tigangirali bage bakwane mbiyamule mwenzi.
Byamano.
Njeno mochokoro Thomas Nyambane. Asamalia tanga kupita manduku. Tigangirali bage soko kwana anga sokoro n'omuntu olenga omuya sana tabwate imocho nonde sokoro n'omongwana olenga abwate enkorere entoereru nakere omonto sokoro nabare kong'akera esimi ontebi twanchane twasabirana kera rituko sokoro n'omonto wanchete abaire n'abasani n'omonto wanchete efamily yaye nakere omonto sokoro nonya osira iga twasirire omosika omonene sana sokoro tabwate komocha nonde bwensi sokoro buna inche nang'ete promise ekera ngokwanere ase esimi agante ng'a mochokoro inche ngotemera omotienyi gatano chiagu 2021 ochiga esinde nagwaka chingundi nonya ibere sokoro tabwate bobe nonde bwensi sokoro nabatwanchete twensi nabarenge gotosabirania ase arenge na inche nabo nagenderete amasabo korwa Kenya sokoro buna arwarete ase igo abaminto abaire n'abasani batotegererete na abaibori bane bonsi eke na ekeranya ekerero sana tobwate ase eng'aki ya obokendo tiga tosabirane Nyasaye atoe oboremu ase efamily yaito yonsi gaki tiga ndemi baba ominto arise eke tari gwancha gwaito ase sokoro gosira na emipango ya Nyasaye baba rema kaba na oboremu Nyasaye akorende na intwe ntokwagete tokobekera riberera ase igo ase efamily yaito na abaire n'abasani tiga mbakere ng'a mbuya mono ase okong'a ribaga asante.
Asante Gaki, asante sana. No yangu kwano wabukamoni kwana dende. Anybody else who came and knew it? Okay.
Okay, tigankwane.
Eh.
Oyo kwana Susan ninkorokwa Nyamari. Na inche nkotekie nafasi yeye or I'm taking this chance to say pole to the family of Dr. Nyambane. Dr. Nyambane was a buddy to my husband Simon, and even the family knows that. And since the time he passed, it's been a grief, more special to Simon because they used to talk most of the time. And he misses his talk. And Alice, Alice, she's my sister. Maybe I know there are those who have their sisters who are listening, and the other siblings, like brothers. She is my sister. That's how I call her, and we call each other. Yeah, because and from there people say that we look alike. And then but then other than that, I say Paul to the entire family. I one time listened to usually when the Queen Elizabeth, when she talks to, especially where she's giving a speech on people, especially she's condoling those who have died. Usually she has a phrase that she uses. And that phrase, I like it, that grief, there are people who grieve, like now the Nyambane family who is grieving. And then she says, grief is what you pay for love. So as the Nyambane family is grieving at this time, means that they loved their dad, and Alice loved their husband, the grandchildren loved their grandpa, and siblings and all family members and friends wherever they are. So when we grieve, is because grief is what we pay for love. That's what we need to understand. Otherwise, if we don't grieve for the loved ones, then it means we don't love them. However, sometimes so many people have talked. I've been talking, I've not been online in some days, but then many people have talked about the goodness of Dr. Nyambane, being an educationist. My dad was an educationist, he loved education. And when one time when I sent him to go visit my sick dad, they talked a lot about education, and he was so happy when he came back telling me the person he met, and they kind of clicked. We have talked a lot, but you know, sometimes the irony is about grief, that the person we need to talk to about how we feel is the person who is no longer with us. That is the only irony. And maybe one word I can say is, or two, or my last words will be this. When we are alive, when you see somebody doing something that is, you really feel that you need to appreciate what so and so has done, just commend that person. Say, today you've done good. Or when I see you in the community, I see you as a leader. I see you as somebody whom we can relate to or do all these things. That's what we need to encourage. Because sometimes if you don't tell me when I'm alive, when I'm dead, I cannot even get to know that, or I cannot know because I've already gone. So that's the word I can leave to all of us who are listening, and to the family. Alice, I'll say that at this time, as you are grieving, be thankful to God, and be thankful that you have children who are surrounding you. You have grandchildren who are also surrounding you and giving you support at this time. They are giving you comfort at this time to get through your grief. The children too. Your mom is there, and the grandchildren, your parents are there, and your grandma is there. Friends are there from church. Friends are there. We have the church family, and friends are there from the community. All those are there to see you through, to support you, to get through your grief. May God bless you as you grieve. Remember, we are in this together. Thank you.
Thank you, Sister Susan, for those words of comfort to the family. God bless you. Thank you. Somebody wanted to sing. I don't want to cut you. I know I cut you short, but can you come on, please?
I want to sing a song. I'm Susan's sister to Alice.
Okay.
Do you hear me?
Yes. I can hear you.
I'm singing a kissy song.
Yes.
It says, this song is comforting you and your children.
If the rest can mute. Myself. I think you are frozen. Try again. Yeah. I think we lost the connection. Okay. Anybody else as we're waiting for her to come online?
Can I come in with a song too?
Sure. Karibu.
Yeah, Mumarita from Texas, sister-in-law to Alice.
Okay,
Bueno, mintuti ganda gotero como gabu. Utuga nyerete sister ya minto Susan.
You can focus your camera to see a little bit up, down. We see you.
I'm trying as I go on.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, bingo chari wanko, yo kwere tabanya vive, na che kuya bachenu, abaire goro, gochare, gochare. Ocha kwaye ngange kore, ona chiche, na chiche gototoria. Tuarore vi maniererio, vi cuoro kyogo chakwaye. Matu kobwango naere na togende yoro gochare gocha kwaye ngange kore ora chiche na chichego totoria matuko onsinetegi sitori no gotimoka voi como toria sirie vive na maqueri gochare gocha kwaye ngange kore ora chiche na chiche gototoria ese yaigoro neño tora ikaranse botambe Tobo iwe ogota kwa Tomenge botambe Gochare ogocha kwaye Nange kore Una chiche na chiche goto Toria. Thank you.
Amen. Thank you very much, sister, for that wonderful song. All right. Next. Who's ready to speak, please? We have plenty of time.
I've got a song, please.
Okay, now, yeah, come on. You are now ready there. Continue.
Okay, I'm Susan, sister to Alice. Ndaga niko gotera weke usi. Keme chandera go etanane. Monyi wete?
Wete.
Okay. Keme chando era go etanane. Tera sobo siobwa ono mosunte. Ora bubu sesenire na yeso. Ora borole no bua matemwa. Raro bora bubu kubara. O bora bubu aselio waba. Rara yeso mosunto tame. Omwegene yeso ngangara sore. Nonya yetu manyeti egurube. Sande to bogi mabwao sense beka musaraba bosiobwa wegene yesaso chinchera chonsi rarobora bubokobara obara bubaselio boba rara yeso mosuntotame omwegene yeso ngangara sole genda no kwegeno bua matemwa manya yeso moto lyanko momole segine vendoro tokwa amayo moto lyolire ira yogobui rarobara bubokobara obarabu waselio woba rara yeso mosuntotame omwegene yeso ngangara sole segine vendoro
They need to do
yobo
something about it.
itanya
We have no faith in the
kobuwe monene ngangara ko echinguru chokobu amate mwara cha sole raro bara bubako bara o bara waselio woba rara yeso mosundo tame omwegene yeso ngangara sole okotero okwe nagotigire omwana ominto Alice n'abana baye kobe imeya ino mwana ominto kwaigure ng'a amatemu nachara amanene naki omanene nakorende nandi nakwagata mbuya mono sana mbuya mono ase ribaga
Biamono, Sister Susan, I say, word of comfort to your sister. Yes. I'm ready. Next, anybody else again? Anybody want to speak? I mute yourself.
Hello.
Karibu.
Yes, good evening and good morning, Kenya, for the ones who are in Kenya. I'm going to sing a song here to comfort my aunt's family and also to our family and relatives. The song, in short, it says, we have no home here in this world. Our home is in heaven. It's a Kissy song, number 269. But I'll try to sing. You let me to sing this song, please. Titorina obomenya omuchitori aiga tore miwan asenkeye toganyo mote ogocha toganyo mote ogocha Titorina obomenya toriyo moche orache zayoninka moinene okome kaimyo kayansi okome kaimyo kayansi obomenyo bomorembe batoriwa
batimoke onyena bwate chimbaba keltimoke omoyone kiraigo omonene umanyire kondakore obuya bwaye nero wonchorere
But Yogotimoka kwane. Sorry for that one. Nini kidogo. Thank you for listening. Auntie,
Thank
take us and
you, my sister Divina, and you too.
I'm Carol.
Yeah.
I'm Carol Finance to the late Dr. Thomas Nyambane.
Okay, asante.
Thank you.
Asante for the wonderful song. Next, you want to speak? Unmute yourself. Raise your hand if I see it, and I'll give you a chance. I see a message from David to Kevin. Kevin, want to speak?
Okay.
Kevin Nyambane?
Yes.
Okay. Go ahead.
It's the Maclean Nyatuka, daughter-in-law to Dad Fred. I could like to say something from the Holy Book, Jeremiah chapter 1, verse 4, about the call of Jeremiah. God tells Jeremiah that he knew him before creating him in his mother's womb. The same way, God knew Grandpa Thomas. He knew his life history. He knows him more than we. Here, I mean, every plan that you are planning, God knows it before us. To my grandma, Vavals, he knows more, you know more how Grandpa used to communicate with Peter and I. He used to encourage us. He was so supportive to us. And besides that, he used to tell us to be God-fearing people. And this I communicate to our relatives and friends, saying that we should do what Grandpa used to encourage us. We love each other and be supportive to each other. Thank you.
Thank you, my sister, for those kind words of comfort. Thank you, appreciate it. Anybody else? I know it's getting to around 10 o'clock, but can still continue. Your family, CK, Fred, anybody there? I want to prepare at least to speak, and the new visitors and the relatives who was like to hear a word from you guys. Ina Kwambuka, somebody, do you want to speak? Unmute yourself. Okay.
Wanyigure.
Hey.
On sasa Maria tangro kunina Nyambane. Telet ne anko yane. Ne roku what my father. My father akuru kusevania Nyambane. Ase baribons ba chirego to apole. To tebana mbiamono. Mwato ikirange sana. Ase ngake yobo kongu. To tebana mbiamono. Abanya committee na abantu bons bari bawikirana ase meeting yiga. Auntie Alice boniga kingagirite kwaremire abantu abange baire bagototereri batoire encouragement tigatotebia Nyasaye mbuya mono ekiagera neroroche ebebo. To my cousins, CK, Manduku, and Nyaboke, tomaete ng'anko natigete esidengia. Mubwati amabarato. Timobasa kwenda kombo, eyuri oriera abebuge. CK, nayo monene, orokereria abana bamino, buna tato mino, ari kuba orokereria. Bona egwatigera ase family. In case of anything, just try to solve, and may God will bless you. No tramo, na turi atambe turi Kenya na intumbiriro turi, lakini no trama asobo kongobo. So distance te basa kogera torre nganturiamo, lakini twensinga motore. Ande kiranye kege tukunete twensi, na bato igweta mayanda. Ainde buna inchega kina bana igweta nko ache Kenya. Erinde na dino eno moyura isaniki. Nyandi jokubwa. Gatusabirane, ande togenderere kobamo, mbuyamo n'abaire n'abasani. Narai nabwata asante sana.
Nina, thank you for those words of comfort. Thank you, I appreciate it. CK, Fred, at the time you are ready, if there's anybody I want to take it, you will see around this, please. Right. Oh no, Naro Toyota to Kukwana, CK.
Anyway, thank you, Mr. Chairman, the moderator of tonight, the pastors, and everyone else that is listening tonight. I think we've spoken for the last almost 2 weeks, and as a family, we really do appreciate. And tonight, I didn't have anything much to say, so I decided to get a little poem just to make it for the night, if I can find it. A golden heart stopped beating, hard-working hands at rest. It broke our hearts to see you go. God only takes the best. They say that memories are golden. Well, maybe that's true. But we never wanted memories. We only wanted you. Your life was love and labor. Your love was love and labor. Your love for your family, true. You did your best for all of us. We will always remember you. We sat beside your bedside. Our hearts were crushed and sore. We did our duty to the end till we could do no more.
No blanket. We've never done any blanket lately.
In tears, we watched you sinking. We watched you fade away. And although our hearts were breaking, we knew you could not stay. Our lips cannot speak how we love you. Our hearts cannot tell what to say. But God only knows how we miss you. In our home, that is lonely today. Thank you, everybody. And may God bless you all. Thank you.
Thank you, CK, for those words of comfort. Very nice memories. We pray for you guys. We will be with you. All of your relatives, friends here, we are with you as a family. I will call upon Joshua. I think there's a special request which has come. Joshua, are you there? Joshua?
Yes, I am.
Yes. There's a special request that you requested from, I think, Kenya.
Yes. Yeah. Diamond, thank you very much. Master of Ceremony, Rata Moderator, thank you for giving me this chance. Here we are, as we are here for the morning of the same. of a great father, a son, for everything. You can say a husband of somebody, a grandma, a grandfather, and a father of many. We know Dr. Nyambane, while he was alive, we did a lot. He made many friends, many in the country and many out of the country. I will not say more about it, but we do have a guest that I'm ready to introduce the guest. I think she's on the line. And the guest I'm introducing tonight is who was the one who has known Dr. Nyambane here and back home. And she was one of those who received Nyambane when she was out in Kenya for fire rescue and assessment. And that is none other than Honorable and the Minister of Health, Kisii County, Honorable Sarah Omachi. She's been trying to come in, and she is Minister of Health, Kisii County, Honorable Sarah Omachi, who personally knows Dr. Nyambane, and not only in Kenya for the project, but also in this country when she visited. Dr. Nyambane was involved taking him around. So at this time, I am asking if she has connected. Honorable Sarah Waziri, are you in? Are you in, Waziri? Are you in, Waziri?
I think there is a number 415, if that's the one is muted. It's muted. Host, can you unmute the phone number 415-260?
Yes.
Host, you there?
Yeah, Waziri, you need to unmute yourself, Waziri. You need to unmute yourself. If you are, can you unmute yourself if you are hearing us? No, unmute yourself. No, we're on the line. Can you unmute? No, you can unmute yourself because I see the numbers here. No, in. Can you speak? Because can you unmute yourself and speak?
He has to unmute himself.
You want to unmute yourself, Waziri. Can you unmute yourself? Hello?
If the host today, you can unmute her. Who is Osiemo or anybody here? Simon?
I have the co-host privilege, but I cannot unmute him. So he has to do it by himself.
Hello?
You are hearing us. Yes, you are hearing everybody here. But can you try the pattern? Doctor, can you try the pattern?
I think there's a message that's unable to unmute. And host try to unmute everybody. Maybe that can work. Just unmute everybody, then see if that can work.
She's really trying. So, Mr. Chair, I'm going to have Waziri to speak on my speakerphone. It's not the right way, but we have no choice. We have to do that. Yeah, because of time. Waziri, can you hear me?
Yes, I'm hearing you.
Okay, here you are now. You are speaking now to all the team and the group for Dr. Nyambane's family and friends and relatives. Because the Zoom couldn't be able to work, please, the floor is yours. Welcome. Yes, Waziri.
Yeah. Hello, everyone. I take this opportunity.
Shem, not aware. Do you hear us?
Yes.
Yeah, you.
Okay.
I'm hearing other people. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Hello, this is Sarah Omache, the Minister for Health in Kisii County Government. I am very, very sorry I pass my condolences and those of my family on the passing away of our Dr. Nyambane. I also wish on behalf of our governor, Kisii County government, to say pole sana to the family and all of you out there who have lost a very good family man and a very good community person, and all his students and his friends. We really want to pass our condolences. This day, I ask you, by the grace of God, that you take courage, because this has happened. We learned when it happened with very heavy hearts, because Dr. Nyambane, though he lives there, has or had already made great impact in this country of ours, in this county of ours. As you know, he used to be a lecturer before he came to US. And then while there, together with Joshua, they are the ones who came to train our people on fire engines. And they did a great job. I remember how I took them around the hospital, Joshua and Dr. Lead and Dr. Kirandi and himself. And we had really, really wonderful time discussing. But I want also to say that we visited the US, to your place, Minnesota, and Dr. Nyambane was one of those who welcomed me personally, greatly, and we shared and shared and shared. Most of the time, I remember it was with Joshua the days that we stayed there. Even when we came for a meeting for our people from here, I remember him really, really well. I pass our condolences. I wish to let you know that we in Kisii are actually right now struggling with the coronavirus. We have two who have been identified or found to be. One was only on Friday from Bobasi. She had come from Kilifi to bury her sister and went home, and because of that she was quarantined, and the results only came yesterday. She's our second, but you imagine the pain of tracing all those that she had been with, funeral people. Fortunately, there were not as many these days. We are only asking that 15 people attend the funeral. And so, as of yesterday, I want to tell you that we had traced 47 of the people she had interacted with, together with those who were with the other gentleman who came from Tanzania. We have 93 people that are quarantined in the Kenya Medical Training College here in our county. So it's a painful experience, and yet we who believe in God know that with God, He has promised our life. This is not the end. As our brother, as our dad, as our friend rests, we know that God has promised that He will wipe away our tears, that He will come. Those who have slept in Him will rise first. And they, together with those who will be alive when Christ comes, will be caught up with Him. And they will
Thank you. Thank you, Honorable. Thank you. I want to tell you that on behalf of the family, they will say personally, and that tell you, Fred, pick up what your father didn't complete. You need to make that for Fred with that minister. Now, Honorable, thank you, and the family on behalf and all those of us who are here, they truly appreciate your time and investment. But I will only say that all protocols not observed. I request that your husband, Dr. Mache, please, he's been calling about Dr. Nyambane. If he's with you, please let him say. And I said all protocols not observed. If you could please let. Please. Please, even one word has been asking me. Yes, we appreciate that. But I ask an apology for all protocols not observed this time. Thank you. Yeah, thank you. Daktari, the floor is yours. You have been talking about Dr. Nyambane. I requested and I apologized. Hey, Daktari, you are saying to the whole people that are listening to you, I did tell Madam that all protocols are not observed. That's why you are coming in. So please say part of the family as you've been talking. You might not have another chance. Thank you. Here you are.
I remember Dr. Nyambane, the time we visited there and had a nice time with him. He was a very focused gentleman, very kind, very social, very interested in helping people. And really, I knew that he had come to Kenya here, visited the family, and tried to help people. So it is quite sad to learn of this sudden death. And I just want to send my message of condolence to the family and pray that the God who knows our destiny will comfort you and see you through as you go through this period of mourning. The good Lord has promised us that if we are faithful, if we are believing Him, this is just a period or an event of sleep while awaiting for the true resurrection, when we shall all be together in the new kingdom. Now let Nyambane rest in sleep, awaiting the resurrection, and you be faithful, trust in Him as you carry on with your daily activities, looking forward to blessed hope that when the Lord comes, we will all meet and share forever and forget the sad chapter of this world brought by the fall and sin of death. So may God bless you and comfort you all through this.
Thank you. Thank you. Sorry, I didn't even introduce Daktari. Is a long-serving elder. For those who know him, he is the owner of Fosrongo Hospital. And so thank you very much. Waziri, you can say now, Paul, you can now be the final one, say Paul, because all the protocols are observed. Yeah, Shem, can you say Kikusi?
Yeah.
Yes, anything. What?
By God's grace. Very courage. It is so wonderful to share with you today.
God bless you. Thank you very much. The chairman has said, thank you.
Thank you, Brother Joshua, for the connection here. As we, I think we're closing for tonight. I will take this chance to recognize those who have worked tirelessly to bring these programs every night, starting from our chairman, Simon Nyambane. You there? Simon? Simon, is he on mute or is not there?
He's not there.
Okay, thank you. We say we have recognized his tireless work, what he has done. Wonderful. God bless him.
Okay.
Brother Japhet Kimaiga.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I'm here. All I can say is to thank all those who have participated tonight. And one more special appeal I want to make is that tomorrow, please let everybody try to tune in. And also I want to thank those who have contributed towards making this program easy. And because I do have the privilege to see the records, most of your names are there, except a few which we want to believe that by tomorrow, we should be able to get closer to the budget that was kind of geared to. Again, on behalf of the family, really appreciate which for each and everyone is being inclusive to this mandate. And we cannot really thank you enough. Once again, I welcome back our chairman to take care of that.
Thank you, Brother Kimaiga. Our treasurers, led by Mr. Munari, David, are you all guys there? Treasurers, anybody who can represent them? I know Daniel Munari, Dev Dosiemo, and okay, apparently they're not there, but we'll give them a chance tomorrow to say something. Our secretary, Evanis Onchiri, is not there. All right, I'll come to Henry. Henry, did you join?
Yes.
Henry? Henry Mugira? Okay. All right. Before Pastor Liki comes in, our man of God who has been coordinating this every program, he has been with the family forever. I'll give Joshua for one more word, who was the lead coordinator, making all the schedule, slotting us every day to come and speak. Joshua, one word or two before I ask Pastor Liki to come on.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you very much. God bless you. Thank you. Thank you. I can't say now because our other coordinators together have said. Can you allow me cry 1 minute only? I will not have this chance because tomorrow I won't even have any other chance. I will only miss one memory about Dr. Nyambane. Every time the kids graduate, Dr. Nyambane invites me. I go a month of experience because Dr. Nyambane invites me. And I will miss all those who pack and dedication, especially his ordination. I have always come to month of experience and the month of blessing before because Dr. Nyambane invites me. He's the only one who invites me to come to our church. I sadly miss that opportunity if I'll ever be invited again to month of experience. So kindly, I'm appealing here CK. I can say that to me now for any occasion. I'm appealing to you. Abalicia, Ramano, your CK and Fred, Babu atimas no mwako na mama mwa baba chaligen chanyo ali wali uchikuna and tevanga Daktari was the only one. He set high legacy very highly. He was inviting me for everything for his family. I will miss that. So kindly, abana kamaranja abana ban mogende in that church, the service in Kuruoro, not only me, but once. One more thing I'll say this because Dr. Nyambane, something to remember to him. And I felt like if I couldn't say this, it wouldn't be okay. 2 years ago, Dr. Nyambane came to my office. You see how much he impacted many. When he came to my office 2.5 years ago, he found me making a phone call. And the phone call I had made a seal, was a phone call of $1,500. I was paying money on the exam of my daughter that I wanted to join 9th grade. So I'm at a preparation, revolution prep. Very expensive. I wanted 6 weeks so that she can be able to study and study. I sealed with this group in Atlanta, Georgia. And after I finished the phone, he told me, what are you doing? I said, I want my daughter Kylie, before she goes to 9th grade, there is this exam, she takes 6 weeks. I have to pay $1,500, and they sit with her 3 days a week, so she can pass this exam before she goes to 9th grade. He told me, Montominto, can I have that money so I can do that job? He found me having so many books that I already bought for the preparations. I will take care of that if you give me just a half of it. I said, how are you going to do it? Because if people will come in the house at 5 o'clock, 7 o'clock, to 8 o'clock, he said, I will personally pick up Kylie from school, take her to the library. We stay there for 3 hours. Dr. Nyambane did that for 6 weeks, 3 times a week. And when the results came, my daughter passed very high what I wanted. What an inspired person. And when I took money to him, I said, this is your money, $750. He told me, I don't need that. Just give me $300. Just forget what he did. How wonderful. How will I miss a person of that nature? He impacted many. Not only impacted me in life, he could have an impact to even my own children. Not only when you call him, he will come for you and give you information. We'll continue to pray for the family. God will bless you. Take care, or take care. You remember where you are. Frank, with your children and Mercy, know what your father did. May God bless you all and all you have done. We can talk more and more. Shem, Yangito, you have done a great job. God bless you for that. For the second day, for you to come, I don't even know you agreed. When you agreed, I don't even know, because it's a lot of work, and especially at the meetings that you have been carrying. Enough. God bless you all for what you have done. For those who have given money and invested, God bless you. We cannot have better words to say than tomorrow to find rest. Dr. Leek in all in your Augustine. Dr. Leek, are you there? Dr. Leek? Okay, maybe I need to do sing on. God bless you. Chairman Yateva for everything, and thank you for giving me the chance. May the good Lord shower you and bless you until tomorrow. Then we can be able to finalize the fundraising, because we are short of you, but please just fight until the end. Above and beyond, God bless you, and thank you, Chairman, for giving me the chance.
Thank you. Dr. Pastor Leakey is on mute, or is he left? All right, Elder Innocent, you started and you will finish.
Pastor is on the Pastor Sobo is there. Pastor Sobo.
Oh, Pastor, is still there?
I'm there.
Pastor Sobo.
All right. Thank you, Pastor Tabitha and your husband. Great family members from Burangi. I know you came here, you were like, whoa, you are from Burangi. Thank you, and what you have done tonight for the comforting the family. God bless you. I will give you a chance to give us a final word of prayer so that we can prepare for tomorrow. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for giving us this opportunity again to pray together. And you are all our friends. Actually, in that's where we have stayed most. So I know most of them and most of you. Now, I want just to sing. I like singing. I hope I will not waste your time. but I will sing this song here. Then we pray. Onye ndirinje na wate chimbaba angana iruka iniko mochoya baberi chambarole babe no kumbarole amona bande amenye taro. Onye ndirinje na wate chimbaba angana iruka iniko mochoya baberi chambarole babe no kumbarole amona bande amenye taro. Aye ayerera oye tigense erina gose meria ense ngosambwele aye beke ange se chinchera chonsi eko nuge kobuga tomoroto tomanene. Aye ayerera oye tigense erina gose meria ense ngosambwele aye beke ange se chinchera chonsi eko nuge kobuga tomoroto tomanene. Bande basemeria se chini bochavo bande se chiveli banda se megoko ebyo byon simbiete ebyo nene ese medio kuya naso monene yeso. Bande basemeria se chini bochavo banda se chisemi banda se megoko ebyo byon simbiete yagera nebiense ose medio kuya naso monene yeso. Aye ayera oye tigense terina gose meria ense ngosambwele aye beke ane se chinchera chonsi eko nuge kobuga tomoroto tomanene. Aye ayera oye tigense terina gose meria ense ngosambwele aye beke ane se chinchera chonsi eko nuge kobuga tomoroto tomanene. Aye ayera oye tigense terina gose meria ense ngosambwele aye beke ane se chinchera chonsi eko nuge kobuga tomoroto tomanene.
Amen.
Our Heavenly Father, even when we are mourning, but still you give us a reason to thank you, Lord. Because we know that even at this time, when we trust you, when we look unto you, we have hope. And therefore, we put the family of Dr. Nyambane unto your hands. We ask you, Father, to give them hope. Thank you, Lord, because of the friends. We put them unto your hands. We ask you to comfort them. The chairman, the treasurer, the secretaries, the committee, and all who have partners together to make this event, we put them unto your hands. Pastor Lick, we put him unto your hands. We ask you, Father, to guide them, protect them. Even tomorrow, we put the event unto your hands. We ask you, Father, to help the committee so that whatever happens, it may glorify your name. As we sleep tonight, we ask you to be with us and the entire family, even those who are back in Kenya, for we pray in the name of Jesus Christ.
Amen.
Amen. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. And we'll meet again tomorrow. God bless you all. Thank you.